Andy, it's such a delight to have you here with us, and with so much of experience, more than 26 years with Southampton FC Academy. I think this short conversation doesn't do justice to the knowledge that we can pick from you. However, we will try to just ask a few, questions, because we as a company, as an academy, we focus a lot on coach education. So I would like to pick your brains on that a little bit. So if I may start, what do you think would be the biggest challenge that you see in young upcoming coaches? Maybe within Southampton, the ecosystem, and also you have traveled far and wide across the world. So based on your entire experience so far, how would you summarize? Like, what is the biggest challenge that you see in the young coaches nowadays?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this, Kishore. I've had a great time being here, and the coaches here are so engaging, and what we did this morning was wonderful, and we really enjoyed it. So thank you for that. So for the coaches, the challenges. I think a lot of the challenges are around about the coach keeping their personality. I find now that a lot of young coaches want to copy other experienced coaches out there, which is great to see at times. You can see some good ideas, but I'd always say to coaches, when you go and watch a session, don't watch the practice, because you may have seen the practice before. Watch the coach. Watch their behaviours, their mannerisms. How do they engage with the players? How do they get the best out of the players? What interventions do they use? And that's the real gold dust that they need to take from the session. And I always say to the younger coaches, be yourself, have your personality, make sure you're true to your own values, and then just learn and engage from other people. And again, it's like everything, I'm always learning. If I watch you deliver tomorrow, there'll be things I see. And that's so important, that you have that open mind, that growth mindset to continue developing yourself as a coach.
Sure. So one thing is, everybody says that, be true to yourself. It's not just in coaching, but even at work and in life in general, right? But how do we make them understand this, and how do we... because saying is one thing, but actually seeing that change in the coach is a different ballgame altogether. So how do we ensure that we are able to teach them and bring about that behavioral change, as quickly as possible?
I think a good way is reflecting. Mm-hmm. So again, in this day and age, we've got loads of access to being able to video ourselves, whether that's just from a phone, from an iPad, from a fixed camera, whatever that may be. So at Southampton, we're continually doing CPD. We're continually reflecting on ourselves. And even myself, when I'm coaching, if I'm delivering, whether it's coach education to my players, I'll watch the session back and I'll look at myself, how did I engage with that player? Was my body language good there? What did I do there? How did I interact there? And it's really important for you to step back and see yourself as well. So for me as a coach, I always have a ball with me. It's like my comfort blanket. I like to walk around and have a ball with me ready for the session. And just be yourself, like I say. And it's so important with the players as well. And then when you reflect back after the session, rather than just ask players questions, can you put them into like a micro pitch, a mini session? Watch what they've learned within that. Let them show you rather than just tell you.
Right. Yeah, I think reflection that you mentioned is so important, again, in all aspects of life. I think without reflection, the learning doesn't really settle down in our minds. So do you do something, are there any processes that you follow to help coaches to reflect? Because I think it takes a little bit of time, especially I think some people are naturally more reflective. However, I've also met people who have never reflected until a very, until say maybe 40, 45. So how do you ensure? So such people may need help from someone else to actually help them and teach them how to reflect before they can start doing it on their own, before they become more independent on that aspect.
And I think there, Kishore, you just described me. For planning a session, I was fine. Doing the session, I was fine. Reviewing, reflecting was always a part I needed help with. And I've had to do that myself. And it's put me into my learning zone and made me uncomfortable because I didn't like reflecting back on myself. For me, reflection was, how did the session look? Rather than, right, what learnings happened? What was my behaviours? So now I had to put something together myself. So for us, when we're coaching, we go on the ball, around the ball and away from the ball. As when we're coaching our players, what's happening, the units and then the team around. So I sort of put that into my own mind because I'm quite a simple guy with I don't like too many words. I don't like too many slides. I need clarity. I need it to be nice and clear in front of me. So I designed my own reflection process. So for me, reflection starts the minute I walk on that pitch. It doesn't start at the end of the practice. It starts the minute I'm on the pitch. So straight away on the ball, I'm looking at the players. So as soon as the session's starting, the first thing I'm looking at is, are the players enjoying it? Are they having fun and smiling? If they are, great, I'm in a good place. Then I'm starting to look. So I might even ask one of the players, or I can tell by what they're doing. Do they actually understand what I'm asking? So that's on the ball. Yeah. Then around the ball, I'll start reflecting and go, okay, while that's going on, it might be having an assistant coaching me. Again, it might be another player. I'll start asking, right, what's happening there? And I need honest feedback with that player. So it'd be like, Kishore, what do you reckon? You might say, well, I reckon the overload's too much. There's not enough success. Or it might be too easy. We need to challenge them more. Good. So we're reflecting all the time. And then I'm changing my session within the practice. And then at the end away, so on my drive back home, it might be I do it on voice notes. It might be when I get back, I just quickly scribble down on my session, right, that was a session there, that was fine, but I had to change it. The size area wasn't quite right. So next time I deliver a similar practice, I've already reflected and I know where that was. And then once all that's done, so on, around and away with my reflection, I begin the next process of planning the next session. So it's a continuous cycle.
Of course, once you understood it, it became much easier, but if you don't mind sharing, how did you overcome this barrier when you said that you didn't really initially enjoy reflecting and looking at your own mistakes? But that's one very, very important and necessary step that every individual, I think, has to take. So I think if you can share your experience, I'm sure it will help a lot of the viewers who are aspiring coaches, not just coaches, but everyone in general.
I think for me, the biggest thing was when I tried reflecting after a session, too much had happened. So then I was having to try and remember everything. And that's why I say now the reflecting has to start the minute I walk on the pitch. So that process for me, so in my head, because being a coach for those years, I'm always looking at on, around and away of the ball. So I thought, how can I make this simple and more beneficial for me in my reflecting process was by using the same words, the same terminology. And that made it so much easier for myself.
And would you say that reflection is also an important component for a player's development as well? Like the player also has to be able to reflect?
100%. Players need to be reflecting just similar as the coaches. But the important bit for the players is they need to reflect on the positives as well. Right. Because too often, it's always a negative. I didn't do that quite well. I should have got to the ball quicker. I could have pressed a bit harder. But reflect on what I've done. I did well there because of my dribbling was good, my awareness to see where my teammate was to be able to make that combination. So we always tell our players, don't just reflect on what you need to do better, which is important, but also what you did well at and stay confident and be the best player you can.
So basically, if I understand it correctly, what you're saying is the reflection has to be well balanced. It has to give us the true picture of reality, neither too optimistic than what is what is the reality, nor too pessimistic, right? It has to be absolutely the right balance, the correct 100%. Assessment of the situation.
100%.
And then so with players, how do you teach the players to reflect? Like so now the coaches have two jobs to do: just reflect on their own as well, on their own work, but and at the same time also teach the players to reflect.
Yeah, so different ways. It could be at the end of the session, I said on a micro pitch. So you're getting the players to reflect of what the practice was about, what the learning was, and then you're checking. It could be, so in tomorrow's session, I'll be using cones as visuals with words on. So the players will be putting words in certain order. So again, I'm reflecting that they've understand the process that I'm showing the players on their recognition before the ball actually comes to them. Have they recognised the space, the ball, the team, the opposition, and where the goal is. So different ways of reflecting. It could be as simple as take a player out during the session, have a one-to-one, have a conversation. It could be during practices, you have group sessions. So you could put them into their groups, and then you're just asking the questions, and you're just moving between the groups and letting them come up with the answers and the feedback and see how they interact with each other. And also you get to see which the leaders are in the group, who's interacting, how they're working, because players can be more honest when the coach isn't there, rather than trying to please the coach all the time.
My next question would be regarding the Southampton Way. I understand that there are almost 15,000 players who you oversee in terms of the training and everything, and there are lots of coaches that work together across multiple age groups, multiple territories. So how do you ensure that the Southampton way is drilled down and it is being executed exactly as it was planned, right, across a wide number of coaches and players?
Yeah, it's always a difficult one, and the best way is through continuous CPD.
Okay.
We're continually, engaging with our coaches, upskilling them. Sometimes workshops just on reminders, of what the Southampton Way is. They have access to it online, so they can go into there and continually be checking, what is the coaching philosophy, the playing philosophy, because it's important for our players to develop in the Southampton Way, that there is continuity with that development for them, because as they go through the age groups, it needs to be a journey of learning for them. So we don't just want one coach to coach one way and another coach to coach another way. And it's still important they have their own personality in there as a coach, but the framework and is all underpinned by the Southampton Way.
So this CPD that you mentioned, is there a minimum number of hours that every coach has to undergo as part of their CPD plan? And how frequent are these interventions in one season, if we see?
Okay, so they don't have to do a set amount of hours, but what we've done now in the academy is we've actually ring-fenced a Monday morning for CPD. So we have 2 hours every Monday morning. So throughout the season, there's going to be a minimum of 30 sessions of CPD there, which is great. Now, sometimes there'll be internal staff, might be going through parts of the curriculum, parts of the playing style. It could be external people coming in as well. It could even be away from football to challenge us as well, regarding psychology of how we deal with players, how we teach resilience, different aspects of the game as well.
Okay. Very interesting, Andy, and thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And we are very excited to see how we can imbibe some of the and learn from some of the methods that you use, methods of the Southampton Way, so that we can develop a whole new generation of Indian coaches who can hopefully help us to facilitate the development of some world-class players from India.
No, thank you. And we're excited to be on the journey with you as well.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.